Hey everybody. Uh, this video is going to go over 3 topics. I wanted to do a video for you after Module 7 to give you some hot tips about doing an interview based on what I saw in the in the module responses and your videos, which by the way, you all did very well. I think everybody has felt a little bit of nervousness going in for a job interview, but I don't think anybody necessarily guesses that the person who's doing that job interview might also be a little nervous. And I think you found out that doing the interview has a lot of preparation that goes into it, right? Okay, so you were great. I want to just make a few tips, give you a few suggestions so that the next time you have to go interview somebody for any reason at all, you will just have this. And not all of you need these tips. Some of you did some of these things and some of you didn't. I'm just want to go over them. Okay, so let's just get started. First of all, for the opening, most of you did according to the format, and you said a little bit about the organization itself and the organization's mission, which is really great because the potential volunteer needs to be able to understand how what they're doing is going to actually create a benefit for the community. And so good for you for doing that. Let me suggest that you can make it better. Instead of picking it up from the organization's website and just reading verbatim whatever they write about themselves, put it in your own words. Because as you know, when we write things down, we tend to write more formally, and we're used to seeing something a little bit more formal in writing. When we speak to one another, we don't talk that way. And it's hard to actually take in a formal statement that's read and translate it in your head. And if you think about it, your interviewee is going to be a little bit nervous. You don't want to make it any harder for them to grasp what's going on in the room and be part of that conversation. So take the ideas and the thoughts. If you want to read the mission statement, okay, but don't read a paragraph or two. Put what the organization does very simply and in your own words. Okay, second, open-ended questions. No yes, no questions. You will get much more legitimate information from people if you give them open-ended questions. Some of you, I actually addressed this in your gradebook comments, but just generically, let me give you an example. So let's say that the open-ended question might have been, do you think you'd be good at creating, classroom activities for young kids? And if that's what the job is about and somebody wants to do it, they're going to say, yes, I would be good. How do you know that just because they think they're good, they're really good? Well, instead of asking a yes, no question, try asking them an open-ended question like this. Can you tell me about a time when you took a classroom of kids and you had them do some activities? What kind of activities did you plan for them? Now they're going to have to tell you what they know how to do, and you're going to be able to sit there and think, oh, that's really awesome. I hope they do that for our kids. Or, we don't want this person. That sounds terrible. So hopefully you'll only get good answers, but open-ended questions. And a lot of you just ask those questions as a yes or a no. And I think that you end up getting what they think you want to hear, not what you need to know. Okay, another thing that I saw a lot of you do was feel very urgent about getting through your question list. I want to suggest that this is your first opportunity to actually connect with someone. This is important both for the organization to know who you might be inviting in and whether you want to, but it's also really important for the volunteer. If they feel they've made a personal connection with you, then they are more likely to actually come back. Remember, this is an interview. You're interviewing each other. And what you want to happen is if it's a good fit, you want them to realize that, and you want to realize that. That requires dialoguing, right? So just asking questions is more like taking a deposition or interrogating someone and jumping from their answer right into the next question is not warm and friendly. If you think about what a dialogue with a friend sounds like, you say something and then they make a remark about what you just said, and that helps you know that they were really listening to you and that they're interested. If they were to just jump from what you said to some other thing, you'd wonder if they even really heard you. And I think that's a little bit how these interviews, some of them came off, when you just were driven to go through your questions instead of actually engaging. And you don't necessarily need to engage in a full dialogue around every question, but if somebody says something that, maybe it leads to a follow-up question, or maybe they tell you about an experience and you can share with them why that's similar or why it will be different where you are. But at any rate, create a dialogue. It's not an interrogation. It's just an opportunity to get to know somebody and hopefully to make the first warm connection between you and a volunteer that will set the tone for the rest of their volunteer experience. Okay, those are my little bits of advice for improving your interaction with potential volunteers. Now let's talk about Module 8. I thought that your Module 8 experiences were great. And if you had, whether you had a really good onboarding experience, whether they were very welcoming and they did a good job of orienting you, maybe they gave you a tour and then gave you some training and let you go, or whether they were not very good at orienting you, whether you couldn't figure out where you were supposed to be, didn't know who you were supposed to talk to. And I've now read uh, everybody's posts, so I know that there was some of both of those things. It doesn't matter. If it was a great experience, then you learned how to do it, and if it was a crummy experience, you learned what not to do, right? So if you want to get a fuller range, be sure and read your classmates' posts as well, and get a sense for all the different ways that people orient their volunteers, some not so well, some very well indeed. And I want to, speaking of your cohort and reading their experiences, I want to remind some of you that this is a little confusing because we had spring break, but some of you still owe the discussion board your discussion with your classmates. So please go back and get that done so that I can finish grading you. Okay. Let's switch gear off the modules and let's talk a little bit about the paper that is coming up. So first of all, there was a due date glitch. This is just one of those things that happens in a class that has 160 places for due dates to be written and have to be updated every single semester, and I inevitably miss one. So I believe that there were 2 due dates given. One was for this past Saturday, which would have been yesterday when I'm recording this, and another one is for a couple days from now. I believe the 16th, maybe that's tomorrow, so Monday, not Saturday. So at any rate, take the later date, my bad, so take the extra day, obviously, to get your lit review in. If you are having any trouble at all with the lit review, I urge you to go back and watch the video. Some of you haven't already. I know I've had a couple of emails from folks who wanted me to explain to them what a lit review was and what to do. And when I directed them back to the video and told them if they still had a question, let's jump on a Zoom call and I'll help them through it. And then I got messages back that now that they'd watched the video, they felt better about it. But I am here if you have any questions, or if you're not sure you're doing something right, shoot me an email, or let's just jump on a Zoom call. Okay, some of you did not look at my comments that I left for you about your research plan. This isn't a finger wagging. It's more of I try to leave you comments that would help make it easier for you to get your paper done. And so you might, if you haven't already taken time to go back and look at the comments I left on your research plan, you probably want to do that before you get too much further into the writing of your paper. Some of you may already be deeply into that paper, but I wanted to remind you in this recording as well that this whole coming week, you do not have any assignments other than having this week to work on your paper. So I'm assuming that most of you have left it to this week, or a lot of it to this week. before you dive back into that paper, please go back and take a look at my comments. I will also be going through your literature reviews shortly, and I will be leaving comments as fast as I can to the extent that that might be helpful to you in finishing your paper. Okay, so couple more things. This week again is empty so that you have time to work on your paper. The following week, which is Module 10, is a little bit different. You will have turned your paper in at the end of this week, and then the Module 10 week will be the next week, and you will have an assignment, but that is also the week that we will be discussing and critiquing papers. So just be prepared that you will have you have readings and a quiz. I haven't given you a discussion thing to offset the fact that you'll be discussing on papers and reading papers. I have just given you a quiz over the readings. So just be sure to be aware that the same week that we are going to be discussing and critiquing each other's papers, you do still have readings that week. You don't have any readings this coming week while you're working on the paper. They've been pushed into the following week, but you have them in Module 10 readings, and then you will just have a quiz to take so that I know that you made your way through those readings. Okay, so one last thing about the paper. Not everybody that started this class has finished this class, and some people will have signed up for a paper and then it won't be there. If you get to the time to find your paper, your classmate's paper that you said you were going to critique, and you can't find their paper, then please let me know, and I will try to figure out who doesn't have someone assigned to their paper. Or you might go back, if you can't find the paper you signed yourself up for, you might go back to the sign-up sheet and see if there's anybody who's writing a paper who doesn't have someone signed up to critique them, and just take that person's paper. But if that fails, then just let me know and I'll make sure you have somebody's paper to critique. Also, last thing, our papers are due to a class-wide discussion board, which is completely different than how you are operating the rest of the semester in smaller cohorts, so you don't have so many things to read. But in this case, I'm having because I didn't have you sign up for a paper by who is in your cohort. So everybody will be in the same discussion board. It will be a little bit longer. It will be a little bit more chaotic, but I think we can handle it. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email. If you want to get together on Zoom, I won't be having any more office hours, as you know, because thanks to COVID-19, nobody's going back into campus, including I'm not going into my office. So if you need me, it will have to be by Zoom, but that's fine. And I'm here if you need anything. So that's it. I don't want to keep you any longer. I'm just feel free to reach out if you need me, and I will see you on campus.